it's very interesting, and it all needs to start from somewhere.
So we started talking about the idea of doing a water projection screen.
Well, I can remember first week when we had this idea to have the water screen, which for me was like, wow, that's gonna be awesome.
We came running in with like our big water screen idea. I think all our heads were just very focused on that and what we can do to that to make it like really great. And, we all had this whole vision of how the water screen was going to look on the Brisbane River.
We put a lot of effort, a lot of hours, and everything that we did, it was kind of not going right.
Quite early on, we ran into a number of issues. We found that either the pump or the actual device we were trying to use to create the screen itself was not optimal.
It was just like a lot of emotions because first time we got in the water, it didn't work. It's just the pump wasn't working. We couldn't get anything right, like anything. So we spent maybe 4 hours, more than 4 hours in the water trying to get it working. And when we finally did, it was just like a little bit of water, just a splash. All the waves are coming, like you can't really work properly, that's the problem. We had to focus on the nozzle, we have to focus on the water. All those ferries passing, like nothing was in favor of us, like everything against. Just crazy. On the water that is dirty and you don't even know what there is on the water, I remember at some stage we just don't realize, but when we look at in the water, our pipe were just floating somewhere.
It became a little bit unachievable, I think, at that time, in our time frame.
I would just wish we had more time.
To solve the problems, we realized that we wouldn't have enough time.
It didn't completely work out.
Following those sort of technical issues, hardware issues, we made a decision to sort of bring it back. We had to make a decision based on, well, we've got 8 or so weeks left. We still want to, deliver something really cool.
We had a great brainstorm and
we tried to find something that had a meaning behind it, something that people could relate to.
Came up with the idea collectively of like, well, jellyfish.
It's massive jellyfish.
So
we're overproducing plastic, it's getting worse. There are many stories, sea turtles eating plastic bags thinking it's a jellyfish.
The waste issues, and then it was also quite current with at the time because Coles, Woolworths and Queensland as a whole, Australia as a whole, plastic bag bans, and it was suddenly very much on the forefront of everyone's kind of awareness, and it definitely felt like a really good time to strike an issue like that to really sort of bring it to the forefront.
I think we spent a lot of time building the jellyfish itself, the structure.
Every week it just got like an extra 50 centimeters bigger.
So we looked at ideas around to build a framework from plastic tubing.
The base circle, and then we had the 8 coming through, and we didn't think 4 was enough to make a shape, but we thought maybe 12 would have been too much.
Just from the nature of the material, it's really stubborn. It wants to kind of stay a certain shape. So there was a struggle just to get all the pieces connected properly and keep them in that sort of lock position.
There was a lot of heat gunning, a lot of hair drying as well to be able to get that bend. And then we kind of got this weird, and then we had the second base circle as well, and we had this weird sort of house.
Once we started to put all the pieces together, we got the base, we got the middle part and the top. Yeah, it starts to look on shape, it starts to look better. I think it was pretty good when we saw the structure the first time.
I think the biggest thing that we had to tackle was the only place we can make this is down in the basement at the bottom of uni, but we need to get it through, stairs and the elevator and up towards at the top of the campus, and then we can haul it up at the top on the railings.
Because you saw this bare bone, just the tubing, it was a huge thing. And then I hear someone say, hey, I know we said it before, but I just want to remind you that we're gonna remove this thing, we're gonna disassemble it, and we're gonna bring it up, and we're gonna put it together again.
So we knew that we would need to get everything in the lift or stairs or whatever, we need to bring it up.
Oh, we've got this cool idea, let's put it together, and then it's there, but not quite. We worked out something like the cover would have to be 7 by 7 meters. square and then drape it over. But then we didn't want these pleats in it as well. We wanted it to be straight. Like, and once we had it over like the jellyfish, the plan was then to kind of like tailor it in a way. So then cut the pleats and like, you know, cut the triangles and then like stitch them back down together to get rid of that pleating. But once we had it on there and we had it tucked, and then it really got rid of a lot of that pleating, we were like, oh, well, this actually isn't too bad. Let's just get the bags on it.
Once we had a skin to play with in terms of testing, we then went about actually really trying to look at, okay, what projectors have we got access to? Because we'd done some initial early tests around just projecting onto plain surfaces and different lighting combinations, using different projectors from short throw to long throw. You know, HDMI connections, or you know, VGA, that sort of stuff, stacking them. But ultimately we found that once we tried to actually test it in these different configurations, that again, it just wasn't cutting it. It wasn't up to task. And that was a real problem. So it was sort of like, okay, thinking caps on again, we need to solve this, we need to find a way out of this. Through, I think, just a bit of random scrambling, searching, just trying to find different ideas for inspiration. How about if we use LED light strips, RGB lights? Because I mean, that gives us an interesting point to be able to create the sense of a jellyfish with the kind of effects and aesthetics that their skin can produce. There's a whole range of different jellyfish and the different sort of colours that they have. They're very beautiful creatures to look at, and that's an aspect that we didn't have, is that beauty. At the moment it's a very white, sterile piece, and we need something that's going to add that kind of that beauty aspect.
Well, there's a lot of drawing. Yeah. There's a lot of us, like, you know, getting out the pencil and just drawing out what we kind of roughly want it to look like.
So then looking at, okay, different libraries that are available. So we ended up using FastLED, but there was also the Adafruit NeoPixel library. We weren't at a point yet where we could really test on the actual jellyfish itself. Partly because we weren't sure yet exactly how many strips we were going to put on, where the best place would be to put them, and also because it was still fundamentally sitting in the basement.
As we were pushing time, we kept adding new stuff into it.
So we looked at possibilities around, well, what about if we applied some kind of Wi-Fi compatibility?
It is everything controlled by node. Mm-hmm. So you can connect our website and change whatever the sequence or whatever you want to change live.
However, we found another issue where the Node MCU itself only outputs a limited amount of voltage, and the reason that's a problem is because the strips themselves require 5 volts to be powered, let alone all the amps that are required to power them as well. But and the Arduino would output 5 volts, which was fine, but the Node only output 3.3, which meant we couldn't directly run the strips from that chip. Just making sure that one of these transformers could power that many strips and not blow up or catch fire. So once we proved that, okay, we've got the power to support it, we've got the chipset and the microcontroller to support it, and this all seems to be working reasonably well.
But the whole point with this jellyfish was the story behind it, like why we're doing it, not what we're doing. And creating the HUD needed to have the same type of, story behind it. It needed to connect somehow. And the connection between there was the challenge. Actually getting into each and every piece in the HUD was it needs to relate to this jellyfish.
By week 12, we're kind of, okay, we need to move everything up, get it into position, actually reconstruct everything, make sure it's all super secure and everything's kind of in place, that the skin's been constructed and we can lay all that back on. Then layer the lights on, test the lights on the jellyfish, actually then trying to move it into position where we've hung it up in the space, which was a massive ordeal. Just the sheer size of it, the weight from everything that was on it, just trying to lift it up and move it into there. And then it's in a void. There's no safety net below the balcony. It's a bit of a drop.
I got scared when we put it up and the lights did not turn on. It started flickering. It was late. I was exhausted. I stayed as long as I could.
It was one night before, so one day before the big day. It was about I think 7 p.m. But when we connect the LEDs, it was just silly. It was just like doing silly stuff that we couldn't understand why. But we just couldn't figure out why. So Rich just had this brilliant idea.
I got the message, and we got the power in. We got the the brain behind it. We got Rich to sort out the last piece, and I was so happy. And then something happened. We put it up a little bit further up, and it stopped working. And this was on Friday, the day with the exhibition, because we had it halfway so we could reach it, and then we're gonna put it to the final position. And when we did that, something moved, something changed, did not light up, and the lights stopped working there too. I was like, this is not happening right now.
And what time's this?
This was like 3 hours, I think, before the actual exhibition. Everyone was stressed out. But it was a situation like any of them. I was confident that we would find a solution.
The exhibition starts at 5, and I'm sitting here at 5:20, still coding, and it's just
we can't say anything. Everyone just put as much effort as we could.
I love this part where I can do my thing and people will trust that I will do it. And I know that I trust them for doing their thing. And I think I think that's rare. I don't think that's very common.
It helped that the team was so strong and everyone really banded together to just kind of like, okay, well, look, doesn't matter, let's just do it. This is the target, right, let's just get it done. And having that kind of sense of discipline and commitment to actually just trying to really deliver a cool, interesting piece that everyone was passionate about wanting to get across the finish line it just made all the difference. So
nothing ever worth having comes easy, right?
This is definitely the biggest thing, like physically biggest thing I've ever done, and mentally the biggest thing I've ever done.